What if I told you there was one practical step you could take right now to radically transform your financial life, and it would only take you 5 to 10 minutes per year? So today we're diving into what we call the 1% challenge, which is a simple habit that can help you save, earn, and give more than you ever thought possible while still enjoying life along the way. So, do you want to know what the secret is?
Yes.
You gotta keep listening. Hey, we are Bob and Linda Lotich, authors of Simple Money, Rich Life, and you're listening to the SeedTime Money podcast. And we are in the middle of a 40-week series where we're sharing our 40-week checklist of all the action steps, strategies, biblical insights that we use to go from paycheck to paycheck, super broke, to reaching our biggest financial goal, which was giving away $1 million by age 40 and living a life of true financial freedom. And today we're talking about this thing that we call the 1% challenge, which I think, putting it succinctly, if I had 2 minutes with any person and the only financial advice I could give them, it would be this. If I had to sum up everything else, if I had to create something that resembled a one-size-fits-all, which personal finance is not, but if I had to find some one-size-fits-all advice of an actual thing to do, this would be the thing. If I could get you, a listener, to do this one thing, like I don't care if you ignore every other podcast, don't do anything from any of our courses or book, anything, but just do this one thing, this is the thing that I would want you to do.
Wow.
So am I selling it? Am I selling it enough? Is that strong enough?
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it just has so much power and potential to change your financial life. Not just your own financial situation and make it better, but also from an eternal perspective to have eternal financial success.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just so significant and so powerful. So.
Right.
With all that, I think we should probably get into it and
Let's
explain what it is. So we got
break the tension.
Big, what is it? What is it? You know? And so if you have gone through a True Financial Freedom class or read our book, you know what I'm talking about because we cover this concept in both of those. So you can go get more detail in it in either one of those. But I want to give you the gist of it here. And it is essentially increasing the challenges to increase your giving and your savings or investments, whatever you want to do there, by 1% every year. And it's that simple.
It is really simple. And this, what I really like about this is it is something that anyone can do.
Yeah.
And they can do it now.
And that's why I like to call this as close to one-size-fits-all advice as we can get. Because, yes, I have never met a single person. I've been talking about this for over a decade now. I've never met a single person who's come back to me and said, Bob, I started giving 1%. And it just threw everything out the window. It was so hard. Like, no one ever says that. So please come tell me if that happens, if you increase your giving or savings by 1% and you're like, oh, man, it just kicked my butt so bad, you know.
Yeah. Well, and we have done this.
We've done
every year for a long time.
Yep.
And
Bob,
we have never once felt it.
12 or 13 years. And that's the thing, is that almost everybody who tries this never actually feels anything. And that's the thing I hear more than anything is like, man, I didn't even feel it. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm just going to do 2% or 5%. And again, I often hear the same thing. It's like, I didn't even feel it.
Yeah.
So that's what's so powerful about it is that you don't have to like suffer. It's not like I'm going to deprive myself to do this thing. It's like that's the beauty of it.
And I think especially in this type of things of saving or investing especially, it feels like it's too big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels like, oh, I have to get this much money. I have to do it feels like you have to do more than you do. But if you can just boil it down to this little thing, it makes it so doable and so easy. And like, if you increase it every year, you are making a huge impact without feeling any of the, what do you say, side effects or something?
Yeah, because over the course of a decade or two, it's like you will be blown away how far you've come, and you will have never actually felt any of the pain or tension of making some radical financial moves. You know? And so I want to break down a little bit about why this works. Okay. And so we often believe that, success requires this massive action, these big, bold swings. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And that these small incremental changes, like these are the things that can lead to extraordinary outcomes, over time. And that's the beautiful thing.
The small moves are the big moves.
Yeah, that's really what this is.
Yeah.
And so I remember hearing about, I think I heard this from James Clear. He was talking about what he called the Goldilocks Rule. And basically it's this idea that, and there's a lot of research behind this, just kind of showing that there's a zone called the Goldilocks zone where the challenge that you're facing can't be too difficult or too easy, but it has to be just this right sweet spot right in the middle.
Yeah.
And when you are in there with whatever the thing is you're trying to do, whether it's trying to lose weight or whether it's trying to read more books or in this case, improve your finances, like it needs to be in that sweet spot. And when you hit that, the research shows that people are far more likely to stay engaged towards the goal they're trying to reach and motivated and everything else. But if it's too hard, then people often tend to quit. And at the same time, if it's too easy, they tend to quit. So we got to find that sweet spot. And that's what I think is so powerful about this is I think this is one of those things where for most of us, this is a Goldilocks zone. And you might be in a situation where 1% is too easy. I doubt it's too hard. I doubt there are many people listening who that is too hard, but it might be too easy for you. Maybe it is, and maybe you need to step it up. But for most of us, 1% is that sweet spot that it's like, this is really, really powerful if you can just do it.
Yeah.
So another thing here too, there was this concept called the Law of Marginal Gains. And this was popularized by this guy named Dave Brailsford. And anyway, and it's just kind of this idea of the power, the cumulative effect of small improvements. And again, like this is also goes, James Clear talked about this in his book immensely. But there's just something about these compounding, Einstein reportedly said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And so this idea of compounding, like our brains cannot we cannot fathom and understand how this actually works and how far and how fast it moves. It's this exponential curve. And so this is what we're tapping into when we do this, just by adding that 1% each and every year. And anyway, and so that's why this works and why if you do this and you do this for a decade, you find it's like if you're investing nothing right now, but you start 1%, a decade from now, you're up to 10%. And it just continues to build and build and build. It's just such a powerful thing. And again, like you said, we've experienced this firsthand because we've been doing this for at least 11, 12, 13 years, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly when we started. And for us, like the way that we do this, like getting super practical, is every year on my birthday, we view that as an opportunity to stop, reflect, thank God for how he's provided for us, what he's done in our financial life in the previous year, and then just increase by another 1%.
Yeah.
And and again, like we said, it's been painless.
Yeah.
It's been painless.
Yeah, it really has. And I think that's specifically important to note if you are a spender.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to be like, well, you can't I don't want you to take all my money that I was going to spend on, whatever. It doesn't have to be a all or nothing thing where you're, you're taking away all your fun money, right?
Yeah.
And putting it towards saving for the future. But at the same time, like, we do want money for the future. We would in my mind, I'm like, well, I want money now and for the future. So make it so that I can do both. And this really it's like, it really is the best of both worlds because you're not feeling that like really intense pull of like, well, I can't spend any money now so that I can, make good decisions for the future. But it really is kind of like the best of both worlds of still being able to enjoy your life, but also making sure you're taking care of, what's going to happen in a few years.
Yeah, and Proverbs 13:11 says, "He who gathers money little by little makes it grow." And you can read Proverbs and find all kinds of different verses in there that talk about getting rich quick and just kind of that idea that obviously is not a biblical ideal. Like
Right.
when we see the way God does things, it's very much the slow and steady. I mean, there are moments where things happen quickly, but there's almost always a root system that's been developing for years before that, before you see
Right.
anything significant. So there's something there. And again, like I come back to 1 Corinthians 16:2, where Paul is talking to them and saying on the first day of every week, set something aside and store it up as you earn something so that when I come, you won't have to do any collections. And there's something there, like they didn't have the ability with technology that we have to automate a lot of these things like we do now. But man, like what he's talking about there is creating a system, a habit, a system of sort to make this easy and to make it as automatic as possible and to remove the willpower component out of it.
Yeah.
And that's, again, like another way that this 1% challenge shines, because it's like you can just adopt this one habit. And it's like you don't have to read any more financial books. You don't have to do anything else. Just adopt this one habit. Take this, apply it. You grab your phone and your Siri and have it remind you every day on your birthday to do this one thing, 5 to 10 minutes a year, and that's it. And by doing that, like you're setting yourself up for like the highest likelihood of succeeding in so many ways in your financial life. And again, like thinking about giving, which we consider to be like the key to eternal financial success in many, many cases, and this is a way that we just continue to do that and to press the gas on that thing, slow and steady, increasing it, and it's like the tortoise and the hare,
Right.
It's like that idea as well. But
yeah. Well, and I remember I think we did an episode a while back with Crystal Payne.
Yep.
And she talked about how they wanted to buy their first house with cash, I think. Do you remember this?
I do remember this.
And I remember her telling us the story where they were in a really, really tight financial position. This was when they first got married. And she said, we just basically spent no money, like paid as little as we could towards rent or, whatever it was, ate very little food, did all this stuff. And she said it worked. We saved up enough. But she said, if I had to go back and do it all again, I wouldn't do it the same way.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of that verse of the gathering little by little.
Yeah.
I think there's so much wisdom in that, the thing,
Layers upon layers. Yeah.
Yes, layers upon layers of like, we could do, we're gonna cut back on everything we possibly can. And we're not going to buy the kids new shoes until they absolutely need it. Or, they get one pair of shoes, for the summer and one pair for the winter. Or, like there's all kinds of things that you could do along those lines and really cut back your expenses as much as possible. But that doesn't always mean that there's a ton of wisdom in that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's interesting hearing someone who got the result they wanted and even still is saying, I don't think I would do it the same way, just because it was so constricting. And you know what I mean?
Looking back, she was able to observe that like we could have enjoyed our lives and just gotten there anyway. I remember hearing a guy named Derek Sivers, who's an author. This like really rocked me a little bit, but he said he used to go on this bike ride and down the beach or whatever. And I don't know how many miles it was. Basically, he would go on this bike ride and he would just work really, really hard. And it would take him like 45 minutes to do it, to get through this whole loop of, I don't know, it was 15 miles or something like that. And anyway, and so he would do this loop. And anyway, so one day he decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a leisurely stroll and I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to do the same thing.
But I'm going to enjoy my life.
But I'm just going to enjoy it. And he said he did it. And he got back, and I think it took him like 43 minutes. So it was like 2 minutes slower, but he said it was completely enjoyable. And so he said when he saw those 43 minutes, it's like, my clock, something's got to be wrong here. There's no way that level of like reducing my pace would only shave off 2 minutes,
Yeah.
And so he just couldn't believe it, but it was just true. It was just like a gentle reduction in his speed and pace that made the whole thing so much more enjoyable. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm just going to do this all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why have the frenzy just to gain 2 minutes or whatever? And I think I did those numbers wrong. I think it was 43 and 45, the opposite direction, but you get the point.
Right.
And so anyway, and I think about this, like we've encountered other people who have, when trying to reach a financial goal, maybe it's paying off debt, maybe it's whatever the thing might be, have gotten into a frenzy like that. And it can bite you. Like, it's not like I'm all for like,
well, it's the same thing of like, I'm going to go on this really strict diet. I have done this a lot. I'm going to go on this really strict diet. And then I come off of the diet and I go absolutely crazy. And all of the benefit that I got towards, doing whatever, of eating only vegetables or, whatever it was, I've essentially undone because I was too restrictive on myself.
Yeah.
And so I've just come to this realization recently with food. This was a hard one for me. But I mean, it's the same with money, where I have said, how can I do this in a way that I will want to do it again next month?
Yeah. And that's a great question to ask.
Because if I'm being so restrictive, then I'm not going to keep it up. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's not because I'm like, I'm trying to be stubborn or whatever. It's just a fact. I've come to learn this about myself, is that, I mean, there are some people who can do that and they will just be like, I'm just going to push through. Our friend Tori is like that.
Well, yeah.
Where she's like, I'm just going to push through and I'm going to force myself to do da-da-da. But I know that for me, it won't work for me.
Well, yeah. And so, I am someone who I think in many cases I can do that as well. But I've still learned over the years that it's like, if I'm not in such a rush, that I can just enjoy the pace. But you know what I mean? It's like I can enjoy my life while still getting the same thing.
Or in other words, you can have peace while doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And isn't that the goal?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that something that's a fruit of the Spirit?
Yeah.
And it's like, for you, it's just not doing it in your own strength to force it to happen,
Yeah.
So, man, there really is so much to, ponder about that verse.
Yeah, because there's something, depending on who you are listening to this, you need to know yourself. You need to know your situation, and you need to know whether or not this is something you need to hear. You might be on the other extreme where it's like, you do need to stretch a little bit more,
Sure.
But that's why all of this stuff, it's so important to know yourself and to just be honest. And again, prayerful with the Lord. Ask him what you should do in your situation.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to get your answers.
Yeah. And I have to say, just knowing yourself, I feel like there's a lot of times people don't want to face their issue. And so they will deny, well, that's not me. I'm not like that or whatever. But I have learned to really just kind of laugh at my weaknesses because it is a strength in another area of my life.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it, is like, it is a strength in another area of my life. It's just that in some of these instances, I could use a little bit more discipline. But that's something to take to the Lord and just be like, can you show me where this is a strength and where it's actually holding me back?
Yeah, that's
and
good.
So it's not something that you need to be like, I don't know, defensive of. Like I've laid down a lot of the defensive, like, well, why are you telling me I'm like that? It's like, well, because you were made to be like that. Like, I think that's something we don't give enough credit to.
Yep.
Of like, why is this particular task harder for me? And it's like, well, because God has called you to do these things and you need that piece of your personality to be a certain way in order to do that. But we just need to submit all of it to the Lord,
Yeah, that's great. So kind of putting a bow on this, if you want to dive deeper, again, like I said, we talk about this in the last chapter of our book. I think it's in session 2 of our True Financial Freedom class. So you can check out both of those or go back to those if you're already a student in those. And we, for a limited time, we're still offering a free copy of our book. If you just want to cover shipping, just go over to seedtime.com/free and we'll send you a copy of our book. And we'd love for you to go through it and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And then I want to, as far as your homework or your to-do, your action item out of this thing, if you are not giving a percentage right now, let's start there. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you're just I just randomly give, I randomly save or invest at certain points, like, let's start making that a regular percentage of your income each month. Okay. So make that the first step. Second step, if you are already doing that, giving a percentage or 0, but you're going to give 1% now, again, grab Siri, say, remind me on my birthday or whatever it is, March 1st, every year to increase my giving and increase my investments by 1%. Okay. And then it's that simple. And then now, when your birthday comes around, you get to celebrate that God provided for you for another year. And you get to go log into your 401k and increase it by 1% there, or whatever the thing is, like your regular Roth contribution that you have, that you're set up automatically, like we've talked about in other episodes, and just go make those changes.
Yeah. And I love the idea of doing it on your birthday because there's not a lot going on like there is at the end of the year or the beginning of the year. Like, make sure that it's a time when you can actually set aside some time to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So do that. Come back to me in 10 years and tell me that it did not change your life in such a significant way. Cool?
No, don't. Actually tell us it did change your life.
You know what I mean.
Because we would love to hear that. It's going to take 10 years, though. But we're in this for the long haul.
Well,
we're here with you for the long haul.
You're going to see the fruit of this long before 10 years. But in 10 years, I think you're going to be like really thankful that you did this. So I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day. See y'all.
Do you want some more Bob and Linda in your life? How about this?
Of course.
How would you like to hang out with us for 6 weeks and your small group or church?
And if you want to do that, just go to seedtime.com/true to find out more details. Or send us a message, DM on Instagram @SeedTime, and let's chat.